Okay, so we're diving into a Christmas story this time around.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Chula Vista Church. And right off the bat, we've got snow in Chula Vista, California.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
Definitely not something you expect on Christmas Eve, right?
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder if the author is hinting at something more, with all the climate change talk these days.
It's an interesting choice, for sure. And it's not just the weather that's causing a stir. The story really highlights how this unexpected snowstorm throws the whole town into
Oh,
chaos.
yeah. The residents are not too happy about it. Tourists are businesses are hurting. It's like the snow brought their world to a standstill.
It does make you think about the real-life impact of extreme weather events,
Yeah,
the economic hit a community takes, the fear and uncertainty it creates.
absolutely. And the story really captures that sense of unease,
Huh?
especially through the residents' reactions. They're complaining about the lack of tourists, pointing fingers at global warming. It's comical, but also a little unsettling.
Right, like it's a glimpse into how fragile our sense of normalcy can be. But amidst all this chaos and confusion, we're introduced to this intriguing character, Father Quang, the priest of the local church.
Yeah, talk about an enigma. He's described as this mendicant monk dedicated to a life of poverty. But then you've got these rumors swirling around him, whispers of a hidden past.
Yeah, and a mysterious woman in the rectory. It's like the author is purposefully playing with our expectations.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is Father Quang truly as pious as he seems, or is there something else going on beneath the surface?
Right. And it's not just the rumors. The story keeps dropping these little details that make you question everything. The fact that he rides a bicycle while other priests drive fancy cars, for
Yeah,
instance.
it's like he's intentionally setting himself apart, almost like he has something to hide.
Exactly. And just when you think you're starting to understand him, the Border Patrol enters the picture. They're searching for undocumented immigrants, and their suspicions fall on Father Quang.
Ooh, that changes things.
It certainly adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it? Suddenly, the stakes feel even higher.
Yeah, we're left wondering about his true motivations. Is he really trying to help people, or is there something more self-serving going on?
It's like the author is daring us to judge Father Quang based on these suspicions, but at the same time, we're reminded of his commitment to a life of poverty and service.
It's a brilliant way to create tension and keep us guessing.
It really is. And just as we're trying to reconcile these conflicting views of Father Quang, the story throws another curveball our way. The mention of a trail of blood leading to the rectory door.
Whoa. Okay, so now we're talking.
Yeah, things just got real.
Talk about a cliffhanger. It makes you wonder, what's happened? Is Father Quang in danger? Is he hiding something?
Right. And what about the mysterious woman? Could she be involved?
So many questions. It's like the story is a puzzle box, and we're just starting to put the pieces together.
It's definitely keeping us on the edge of our seats. And that's where we'll leave it for now. But don't worry, we'll be back soon to unravel this mystery and explore the deeper themes at play in the Chula Vista Church. So we left off with that image of the trail of blood leading to Father Quang's rectory, right?
Yeah, talk about a cliffhanger.
It definitely raises the stakes and makes you wonder if Father Quang is hiding something even more significant than we initially thought.
Yeah, and just when we're trying to wrap our heads around that, we're introduced to two new characters who add another layer of intrigue to the mix.
Right. First, there's the Reverend Mother, this practical, no-nonsense woman who seems to have a soft spot for Father Quang, even though she doesn't always agree with his methods.
Yeah, like bringing him Starbucks coffee as a gift. It's those little details that make the story so relatable.
Totally. It's like she's trying to bridge the gap between the expectations of the church and Father Quang's commitment to a simpler life.
And then we have that young man, so eager to help Father Quang shovel snow, refusing any payment for his work.
Yeah, he's like the embodiment of youthful idealism, drawn to Father Quang's piety.
It's interesting, isn't it, how the story juxtaposes these different approaches to faith and service.
It really highlights the complexities of religious devotion.
Absolutely. And just when we think we're starting to understand the dynamics at play, the story shifts back to Father Quang's encounter with a young woman and her baby on Christmas Eve.
Oh man, that scene is heartbreaking. You see her desperation, her exhaustion, and you can't help but feel for her.
It's a powerful reminder of the struggles so many people face, especially during the holidays.
Absolutely. And what does Father Quang do? He invites them into the rectory, offering them warmth, food, and shelter despite the risks involved.
It's an incredible act of compassion, especially considering the suspicion already surrounding him.
Right. He could easily have turned her away, but instead he chooses to act with kindness and empathy.
It really makes you question your own capacity for compassion, doesn't it?
It does. And it's not just about providing for their immediate needs either. He invites them to attend the Christmas Eve service and the celebration
It's
afterwards.
like he's welcoming them into the heart of the community despite their circumstances.
Exactly. And it subtly challenges our own preconceived notions about who deserves compassion and belonging, especially given the story's setting on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Right. It's a powerful statement about the importance of empathy and understanding in a world often divided by fear and suspicion.
It really is. And the fact that all of this takes place on Christmas Eve adds another layer of meaning, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like the story is reminding us that the true spirit of Christmas lies in acts of kindness and generosity, especially towards those who need it most.
It's a beautiful message, and one that resonates deeply even amidst the uncertainty and tension that permeate the story.
Yeah, it's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
So picture this, the Tijuana girl. She's sound asleep by the fire, after all that she's been through.
It's such a powerful image of peace and resilience, right?
It is, and then there's her baby, safe and sound in Father Quang's arms.
And it's Christmas Eve, the church bells are ringing. It's like this moment of grace amidst all the chaos and uncertainty.
Yeah, it really drives home that contrast between the joy of the season and the harsh realities that many people face.
Exactly. And the story doesn't shy away from that complexity. It acknowledges the struggles, but it also offers a glimmer of hope through Father Quine's compassion.
I think that's what makes this story so impactful. It's not afraid to grapple with difficult themes, but it also reminds us of the power of human kindness.
And the importance of looking beyond appearances to see the humanity in everyone right.
Absolutely. Father Quang is a perfect example of that. He's shrouded in mystery and contradiction throughout the story, but ultimately his actions speak volumes about his character.
It's like the author is challenging us to examine our own biases and preconceptions,
It makes you think about how quick we are to judge others based on appearances or rumors.
and how important it is to approach every interaction with empathy and an open mind.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Chula Vista Church, what are some of the key takeaways that you hope listeners will carry with them?
Well, for me, it's the reminder that compassion can be found in the most unexpected places, and that even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, and that true generosity often means taking risks and challenging our own comfort zones.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the shared humanity in all of us and extending a hand to those who are different from us or who are facing difficult circumstances.
And I love how the story uses the setting of Christmas Eve to underscore those themes. It's a time when we're supposed to be reflecting on the true meaning of the season, which isn't about presents or decorations, but about love and compassion.
It's a powerful message and one that I think we all need to hear, especially in today's world.
Well said. It's been a pleasure unpacking this thought-provoking story with you. Today, we've explored themes of faith, compassion, and redemption, all set against the backdrop of a very unusual Christmas Eve in Chula Vista. It's a story that challenges us to look beyond the surface, embrace complexity, and remember the power of human connection.
And I think it leaves us with a powerful question to ponder. How can we each embody those values in our own lives, not just during the holiday season, but all year round?
It's a question worth reflecting on. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. We encourage you to seek out the Chula Vista Church and explore these themes for yourselves. Thanks for joining us.
The Chula Vista Church. The desert town Chula Vista this December unexpectedly received copious tons of snow falling from the sky, whitening the entire city. The parishioners of Chula Vista Church all shared the same complaint. My gosh, crazy. Oh, crazy. Yup. Seeing one another either in public or at home, the sheep of Chula Vista Church immediately blurted out the same monotonous complaint, which was repeated like the screaming sound suddenly blaring from the alarm clock every morning. Tit-tit-tit. Oh, no more. That's enough. Please don't dump any more snow in the town. The tourists who had come here to escape the snow in North America and Europe had begun packing luggage and leaving town. The economy of the town, located near the U.S.-Mexican border, relied heavily on a large number of tourists during winter months. But it had now almost gone bankrupt because of the unexpected snow accumulating thickly on the ground. Well, what do you expect? Why manufacture so many automobiles? People fill up their gas tanks with petrol and diesel just like pouring water into the mouth of a thirsty person. Now carbon dioxide is making the sky turn gray and causing global warming. What did you say? Are you deaf? What else but global warming? If you don't believe me, go ahead, climb up to the top of the church bell tower so you can see for yourself. Car smog has caused the sky of San Diego to be so muggy. Living in that city, no one can see a human face. Global warming. So what? Mamma mia? Don't you ever read the newspaper or listen to the radio? No wonder you look so lost, just like the Tijuana girls who just crossed over the border. Think about that. Chula Vista and San Diego have never received an inch of snow. But now, look at San Diego. The roads are covered with snow. The parishioners kept complaining, but the snow didn't heed their cries, for it kept on falling 4 times a day. In the morning, at noon, in the afternoon, in the evening. Snow whitened the bell tower of Chula Vista Church that stood tall and motionless. Father Quang's skinny stature was comparable to that of an opium addict. But whether it was in the morning or at noon or in the afternoon or the evening, he always took out the shovel that he had just purchased from Home Depot to shovel the snow piling up in the huge church parking lot. A devout Mexican parishioner passing by expressed concern for the poor priest. "Padre, why don't you ask the maintenance guy to do the job?" Father Quang looked up. His lusterless eyes were covered with a thick pair of myopia glasses. "Who?" He straightened his back. Almost out of breath, he continued, "Perhaps, if you're willing, you can stop by the parish office to sign up for a contract. The parish will surely pay you." The young man smiled and then walked away. But for some reason, he stopped in his tracks. "Padre, how much do you pay an hour?" Father Quang pursed his lips. "Well, perhaps the minimum wage." Looking at Padre Quang, skinny just like a lonely homeless flamingo, and the church with worn-out red tiles on the roof, the young man reluctantly said Garcia, and then walked away. The Reverend Mother of British descent, the principal of the elementary school, located a few blocks away from the church, stopped by the rectory, and spoke to the priest in a rough voice. "Father, please, just shovel the snow once a day. Why do you have to work so hard? 4 times a day." Father Quang said nothing, but kept eating the sandwich made with stale pink ham, a wilted leaf of salad, a few slices of overripe red tomatoes, and dry yellow cheese. One person felt sorry for him. What a tough life. Just like a mendicant Franciscan monk. Another accused him. What a pompous man. "I am Vietnamese. Father Quang and I once lived in the same neighborhood in Little Saigon. We also studied in the same high school. I can tell you all the things he'd done before. Surely this guy used to be a player. American girls, Mexicans. I haven't heard of him for quite some time. And now he has moved down here to be the parish priest. What an upside-down world." Another whispered, "What a hypocrite. The world is now in the year 2000. Open wide your eyes to see that. Many priests once a year exchange their cars for new ones. But this guy rides only an old bicycle. Talk about being silly. One even swore, 'You're right. What the heck?' One night, I even heard the voice of a woman in the rectory. One rebuked the previous speaker. 'Don't say silly things.' 'What do you mean silly?' 'I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah, just last week, I walked my dog out. The dog on that night, for no reason, jumped up and down, running directly to the backyard of the rectory. That's how I had seen what I just said. Did you see it with your own eyes? That's unnecessary. Besides, I was standing next to the backyard fence, and I heard very clearly the whispering sounds from the kitchen. Oh, my gosh. The voice was no doubt that of a woman. Snow continued to fall, but failed to erase the border between Chula Vista and Tijuana. For a long time, the poor from South America had been thronging to the border town of Tijuana, Mexico, waiting for the opportunity to cut through the barbed wire fences in order to cross over the border into the Promised Land. Taking shelter in Tijuana, young ladies, running out of cash, sold their bodies to tourists. Young men with big muscles, once successfully making it over the border, followed arduous unnamed roads to Los Angeles working as waiters in Chinese restaurants or as hired laborers for Vietnamese landscaping contractors. But only if they were lucky, for many were chased and shot down by the police. Well, it is America, a civilized nation. After shooting down people in the foot, the police would call the ambulance to rush the illegal immigrants to the hospital for medical treatment. Being careful with legal issues, they even hired licensed interpreters for the patients. Nevertheless, once the wounds in the feet were healed, the next day police cars would loudly blare their sirens as they carried the illegal immigrants back across the border. The captain of the border fort pointed to the face of the man, who was writhing and tumbling on the ground because of a bullet in his leg, saying uncertainly, "It is him. It must be him."
He rolled up the leg of the man's worn-out jeans. A scar from a shotgun wound caused by a bullet from the same rifle appeared. The scar obviously appeared fresh. Because of the snow, the captain, once while chasing the illegal immigrants, missed a step and fell down on the slippery road. After regaining his balance, the captain turned on the flashlight. He noticed the footprints were engraved on the thick snow in the parking lot of the church. He knocked on the door of the rectory. Father Quang appeared, coughing repeatedly, just like a pneumonia patient. The captain of Irish descent, a creedal Catholic, removed his police cap and nervously opened his mouth for a greeting. "Hello, Father." Father Quang stepped to one side of the door. "Hello, Captain. Please come inside for a cup of mocha coffee from Starbucks." Quietly observing the situation, the captain politely bowed his head. "Thank you, Father. I'm on duty. Perhaps another time." Father Quang looked at the captain's back while gently shutting the door of the rectory. The captain turned around. The parish priest's skinny silhouette was still visible by the window. The sound of an evening prayer gradually reached his ears. The captain made the sign of the cross, walking quietly all the way back to the border fort. At another time, while chasing the illegal immigrants, he saw a trail of blood disappearing under the door of the rectory. The captain was hesitant. Being a faithful Catholic from a family that upheld their religion for hundreds of years, he really dared not confront any priest. But how about the illegal immigrants? Obviously, his blood was printed sharply in front of the door. The captain almost attempted to cross over the threshold of the rectory for a cup of mocha coffee from Starbucks, but Father Quang's cassock and the white collar flashed in his mind. The captain thought it over and over, finally giving up the idea. But the lieutenant, deputy of the border fort, did not give up easily. The lieutenant, a Lutheran, at midnight pounded on the door, demanding that Father Quang lead him to all the corners of the rectory. He even requested that the parish priest open the church, taking him all the way up to the sanctuary to check behind the altar and under the tabernacle. Tonight, December 24th, was Christmas Eve. Following the 200-year tradition since the church was built, the Chula Vista Church again held the vigil Christmas at midnight. It was 6 o'clock. Father Quang opened the church door. He was satisfied that everything was ready for the midnight Massachusetts. He whistled the tune of a Christmas carol and put on a thick jacket. Looking at the slippery road caused by the snow, he decided not to ride his bike, but walked to a Korean grocery store to buy a box of Nongshim's spicy noodles. On the way home, he dropped by a Starbucks coffee shop to get a few more bags of mocha coffee, the good quality ones. Having walked away a few steps from the coffee shop, he unexpectedly encountered an unidentified woman. Father Quang recognized the face of a South American girl, perhaps 17 or 18 years old. The late winter afternoon had darkened the brown skin and big eyes of the girl. His nose quickly picked up the scent of a cheap fragrance in the air. The girl with a heavy English accent greeted him. "Hi." Looking into her blue eyes, the man nodded his head, returning her greeting. "Hi." The girl lowered her head, pointing to the lowest part of her upper body, saying with a determined voice, $40. The man missed a breath. His heart beat rapidly. Dup, dup. He quickly turned away and quickened his steps. The girl, however, ran after him. She pointed to her tight round breasts. $20. The man kept focusing on his steps. The girl kept running after becoming more desperate. 10. Only 10. It is very cheap. Under a palm tree with its thickly grown palms casting shadows in the man's face, he began to slow down. He breathed heavily while removing his gloves and slipping his hands into his pockets. The girl stood motionless, waiting patiently. The man finally took out from a pocket a $10 bill. Having held the bill in her hand, the girl then lowered her head, slowly removing the top buttons of her sweater. Raising her head, she surprisingly found the man had almost disappeared into the twilight of a snowy Christmas night. Returning to the church, Father Quang noticed a man standing next to the door of the rectory. He raised his eyebrows, looking harder. Oh, it was the young Mexican man who once asked him the salary for the maintenance job for Chula Vista Church. "Please come inside for a cup of mocha coffee," Father Quang said. The young man shook his head. "Padre, please give me the snow shovel." The parish priest smiled. "I told you already, the church can afford only minimum wages." The young man shook his head several times. "No, I am not asking for a job. Padre, from now on let me take care of shoveling the snow." The young man became reluctant. He rubbed his hands, twisted his 10 fingers together, then scratched his hair. "I just met the Reverend Mother. She told me you shovel snow 4 times a day, in the morning, at noon, in the afternoon, and the evening. That's why you've come down with pneumonia, coughing a lot. She even told me—" He suddenly stopped in the middle of the sentence, swallowing saliva, turning to the border fort with its numerous voltage lights brightening up a vast area. Father Quang's face unexpectedly became serious. He said nothing, but went into the rectory. The young man was left alone by the door. He took the shovel and started to remove the thick snow layer that had accumulated in the parking lot. He smiled while saying softly, "Well, we have to shovel snow so those who attend midnight mass will not be stumbling on the ground, Padre." There were a few knocks at the door. Grasping his chest, the parish priest coughed repeatedly, opening the door. It was the Reverend Mother with a few bags of excellent mocha from Starbucks in her hand. "Merry Christmas." "I come for a visit, and also to deliver my Christmas gifts," she said jubilantly. The parish priest looked at the Reverend Mother with a frown. "Why Starbucks coffee?" The Reverend Mother replied at once, "Why not? Father, you don't have to buy expensive coffee for your guests, so people will not gossip among themselves. It is now 21st century, but our parish priest still lives an old-fashioned life. But anyway, it's up to you. Though I disagree with your way of living the vow of poverty, still I support you." The Reverend Mother stood up, intending to leave, but again sat down in the chair. "I'm sorry if what I say offends you. It doesn't mean that you sold your car, which released a huge amount of smog into the sky, saving that money for the poor, riding the old bike, then the world is no longer threatened with global warming. No matter what you do, still millions of people don't care, but keep driving their cars every day."
Having finished speaking, the Reverend Mother stood up and left the room. The parish priest closed the door. Standing next to the window, he saw the silhouette of the young Mexican man shoveling the snow in the parking lot. He sat down, reviewing his sermon for the midnight mass. But he heard the sounds as if someone was walking in the backyard of the rectory. He stopped reading the homily, bending his ears to listen, turning his head to the border fort, and then walking fast to the kitchen. Opening the back door without turning on the light in the kitchen, he carefully checked out the backyard. The silhouette of a woman standing behind the back door did not scare him. He stepped aside, making room for the woman to enter. Under the weak yellow light of the bulb in the kitchen, he saw a young girl with a sleeping baby in her arms. The baby's face was pallid due to the cold weather. Father Quang quickly shut the door, turned on the electrical fireplace, and invited the stranger with her baby to sit down on the sofa next to the fireplace. Father Quang asked, "You want to eat noodles?" The young lady nodded her head exhaustedly. Having walked a few steps, Father Quang suddenly stopped. The girl and Father Quang both rolled their eyes as they looked directly at each other's faces. The girl reluctantly lowered her head. Father Quang turned around and walked straight to the kitchen and lit the stove to boil the water for a bowl of instant nongshim noodles. He asked without turning his head, "Can you eat spice noodles?" The girl still looked down, replying in a soft voice, "Every day, I eat spicy food." "How about the baby?" "He just finished a bottle of milk I bought from a grocery store. $10 for 3 bottles. The girl quietly finished a bowl of spicy noodles, a large bowl. She then stood up and said, "Thank you, Padre. You're so kind. No wonder they keep calling you a kind padre. Father Quang nodded his head, saying nothing. The girl reluctantly asked, "Can you do me a favor?" She gave the baby to him. Father Quang squinted his eyes. "It is already late. Where do you want to go?" Her face immediately became downcast. Her voice was as if speaking from her throat, soft but sharp. "Where else? I don't work. Where can I find the money for the baby's milk?" The girl knit her eyebrows and asked a direct question. "Is it okay?" Father Quang quickly nodded his head, embracing the baby into his arms. "Perfect. Surely it is perfect." He paused for one moment and then said, "I also asked for a favor." The girl asked at once, "What is it?" Father Quang looked at the clock on the wall, pursing his lips. "Only one more hour, and then midnight, Massachusetts. Go wherever you like, but remember to come back for the Christmas Vigil Mass." The girl at once collapsed just like a tree being hit directly at the middle of the trunk, covering her face with her fingers. She burst into tears. Her thick, long, curly hair dropped down swinging in the air. Her crying startled the baby, but his two tiny red lips fashioned a smile, a heavenly one. Patting the shoulder of the baby, the parish priest also smiled. "Tonight is Christmas Eve. No matter what, we should light the candle to celebrate the birthday." The girl ceased crying and asked in a voice of surprise, "Whose birthday?" "Who else? Tonight is Christmas Eve, have you forgotten?" The girl raised her head. She saw the parish priest stepping carefully on the creaking wooden stairs. He talked while climbing up to the first floor. "Let the baby sleep first. I'll see you at midnight. Oh, after the Mass, I invite you to Reveillon with the Reverend Mother and the new church maintenance guy." Outside the room, the snow was falling, illuminating the silhouette of the maintenance guy who was curving his back to shovel the snow on the huge parking lot of the church. Inside the room, the fireplace with the red charcoals reddened the face and the lips of the Tijuana girl, who had already closed her eyes for a deep sleep on the sofa. The organ in Chula Vista Church played softly the first musical notes of the famous carol, Silent Night. The Christmas bells in the church bell tower started to ring. King Kong! King Kong! The Christmas bells of joy and delight kept ringing to dispel the thick and gray sky of hurt and tears. King Kong! King Kong! The desert town Chula Vista, covered in white snow, counted down to midnight.